Hello everyone, Alex here from WarrenOffKeys.com, and in this Discord.js tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a documentation command similar to this one. So let's say we want a very quick way in order to gain access to the documentation for embeds. We can simply type !docs embed, and here we get a bunch of different information such as embed field data, and all these other things right here. Here we see message embed, and this is actually a link to the documentation. But if I say something in a very specific way, like docs message embed, it is then going to provide even more information such as the properties and methods within this. And so this is what we're going to be creating within this video tutorial. And real quick, before we start, if you ever do need help with anything, then feel free to join the WarrenOffKeys Discord server. We have a bunch of people joining every day, as you can see here. And so once you do join, you can scroll down and ask your questions within the JavaScript channel. So with that said, let's get started. I'm going to be using the Commando framework for this video. However, if you prefer a different command framework, then feel free to use that. As long as you understand the concepts I'm teaching within this video, then you'll be able to use any framework you want. So I'm going to go inside of my commands folder, inside of my MISC folder. I'm going to make a new file called docs.js. And within here, we first have to import the Commando class. So const commando equals require discord.js-commando. And then at this stage, we have to export a class, which is going to extend or inherit the commando.command class. And this is basically just going to give us all the basic functionality we need to create a command. So we can say module.exports is going to be a class, and then we can call this docs command. And this class is going to extend using the extends keyword, commando.command. Now within this class, we need to first create a constructor. And this constructor is going to be ran whenever a new instance of this class is used. And then the parameters is going to simply just be the client. Now we have to call the super function, which is going to call the constructor for the command class, which we are extending. And this takes in two arguments. The first one is going to be the client, which we just now have access to. The second one is going to be an object where we can provide some configuration on how this command should be structured. For example, we can specify the name, which is going to be docs. We can also specify a group, which will be MISC because we are inside of the MISC directory, which is associated with the MISC group within Commando. This is something I've covered in a previous video. We can also have a member name, which will also be docs. And then a description, which will be displays discord.js documentation. Now at this stage, we need a run method. This is going to be an asynchronous method. And within here, we need a couple different parameters. The first one is going to be the message, which will give us access to the actual message sender so we can then reply to them. But we also need the arguments so we can understand what exactly they're looking for. Now, in order to actually use this, we have to connect to an existing API. There's no need for any accounts or anything like that. And a link to the actual URL in order to access this will be found in the video description so you can easily copy and paste it. But I'm going to say const URI is going to be a string, which is going to be this right here. And again, this we found in the video description, so you can type it out if you want, but you can easily copy and paste it from there. Now in this stage, we can use this and add in whatever the arguments was from the command sender, and then we can make a GET request to this endpoint, which will essentially return back some JSON data that will allow us to actually use that within an embed to create the actual functionality we're looking for. So with that said, we have to use a GET request. So we need to make sure that we have Axios installed, which is one of the ways we can perform a GET request. If you prefer a different method, feel free to use that. And in order to install Axios, we have to simply run npm install Axios. Go ahead and run this command within your terminal, within the project folder. And now at this stage, we can go ahead and import this. So const Axios equals require Axios. So now we need to actually attach the arguments to the end of this. So I'm actually going to select this entire string, and I'm going to replace the single quotes with backticks so we can use a template literal. And then at the end, we have to insert the actual arguments. So I'm going to insert in encode URI component. And within here, we can pass in our arguments. And this is going to allow us to safely pass in whatever the user sent into this string to then create a GET request for the string. So that we have access to this, we can use axios.get. We could then pass in the actual URI or URL that we want. In this case, it's going to just be URI. I'm going to go ahead and move this onto its own line. Afterwards, we're going to have .then because this is going to return a promise. we are then going to have a parameter which will be called embed, and we also want .catch, which is going to return an error. And so within here, we can just simply console.error the error. Now going back to our .then, we want to at first just console log what this embed is so we can get a good idea of what's going on here. So console log embed, we can go ahead and save this. I could then go into my console and I could run the bot with node index.js. I could then go into Discord and I could run !docs. And ignore this, this is from the Warnoff keys bot, but we see this request right here. This actually didn't work. So we see data is going to be an object, and so we're going to always want to access the data object, but we see a problem because we didn't actually provide any information. So if I say docs embed, we now get a lot more meaningful data here, but we're still within the actual data object, as you can see right here. So we're always going to want to try and access that. And again, ignore the Warnoff keys bot. I'm actually going to delete these messages, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to change this to _docs. You don't have to do this. This is just because I'm going to have two bots with the same exact command. And so I'm going to add an underscore to make sure that we're using the correct bot and not the official Warnoff keys bot. So let's go ahead and cancel out of that. Going back, we can now gain access to the actual data. So I can say const, we're going to destructure data from the embed object. So now we have access to it within the data object. And then we're looking to actually send this. So I can say if data and not data.error, we can then send this to the actual channel. So we have access to the message parameter here. We can say message.channel.send, and then we can pass in an object. And within here, we want to say embed is going to be the data object. Now, if this if statement is not true, that means something went wrong. And so we simply want to reply with an error. So we could say message.reply could not find that documentation. You can add whatever error message you want, of course. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this and run my code again with node index.js. And within the Discord bot, I can then say !docs. We can then say message. And now it has the actual embed being sent right here through the tutorial bot. If I would then say docs member, it is then going to have search results of what we might have meant because there's multiple different things when it comes to the word member. So as just a final example, we can say docs guild member, and it then provides the documentation for that exact class. And this is how you're going to create a Discord.js documentation command using Discord.js. Thanks for watching this Discord.js tutorial. If you want to learn more about Discord.js, consider clicking on the playlist you see on your screen now. If you need help, feel free to leave a comment or ask in the Warnoff Keys Discord, which can be found in the video description.